Culture of go wedi alles yn Kershaw ac ha comunectri gan y loch. Niw hasyn dolchloedyn mae yn gan y hyrwch gan y anamol a han y sio, hyrwch hofal. Agus cwmwyd am ha yn uwch gan y sio, Richard Kershaw. Uh, Richard, thank you for speaking to us here. All I was just saying that here we are in one of the famous places in Kinloch, Soval. Tell me a little bit about your own family, first of all, and how you ended up here.
My uncle bought Soval as part of a syndicate in 1950, and there were 4 of them. And gradually, as they each wanted to retire, the others bought them out. My uncle, that was Richard Bett, he ended up sadly being the last one still going. He died, I'm afraid, far too early of a heart attack when he was only 59. And it then passed to my mother and to my aunt, Mrs. Barbara Barker, and they ran it for a bit. And then really in the 80s, they weren't quite sure what they were going to do. And I'd always loved the place and always been up here since I was far too, just about out of the cradle. And so I came up here a lot. And really in the early 80s, they said, well, there wasn't much letting, there wasn't much going on. We were down at the old lodge. They said, would you like to run it? And literally it was handed over to me when I was probably far too young. And my wife and I married within a couple of years, and then we've loved looking after it and being part of the island for the last sort of 40 years. And what's been fantastic is, all our children were very much sort of almost born here on the island. They weren't born here, but do you know what I mean? They grew up a lot on the island, and my wife was terrific in taking them around to all the places and all the beaches and everything else. So it's very much in our blood.
And you had it on one. I don't know why the word poisoned chalice came to my mind. How did you think? What did you think of it first of all when you had the opportunity?
I think when you're that young, you're so naive that you think you can conquer the world. And to be fair, there was hardly any letting. There was only one keeper. We were in the old lodge, so the only way really was upwards.
So what was the state of the place when it ended up in your hands?
Well, we were very happy in the old lodge, which obviously you know all about, and that was a terrific character building with a gorgeous big sitting room and timber lined, but it was a very antiquated old building. Guests always used to say to me that oh, it's raining in, and I'd say, well, that's great news. The fishing will improve. And it was always a bit of that, and it was a lovely old lodge, but you had to deal with gradually improving that as a building, which I've spent a lot of my life transforming, and gradually we re-roofed it and re-sided it and done everything to it. So that was very much a challenge. And then at the time, it was purely a fishing estate. Which was quite right and proper. It was some lovely fishing, and there still is on the Laxey River. But it hadn't been shot since before the war, so it was starting all the shooting again, getting that going, and that really helped the letting and getting the tourism to come in. And then gradually, over the last 20 years, just adding some really nice stalking. And I've rented various bits of the island for stalking, very normally off the community. I mean, I've got a big chunk I rent off the North Harris Trust at the moment, and just love extra bits of the island.
When you mentioned the word rain, there was a comedian once in South Lochs, we called him Calahonacon, and one of his jokes was that when the candidate for election came to his house, remember these were the days of the old thatched houses, the black houses. Yeah. I'm going to bring water into your house because, of course, in our generation there was no such thing as piped water. And he said, "For goodness sake, would I spend my life trying to keep out you telling me you're going to put it in?" So things have changed a lot.
Yeah, well, yeah, and in those days it was, people were quite happy to come up for that. They're very much more basic holiday, which went with it. But gradually, we built everything up. Gradually started to employ a second keeper and really started to move things forwards.
No, you presumed that I would know about the old lodge,
Well, I did.
but I don't come from this part of the island. So tell me about what the old lodge was. How old was it, and what was there?
The old lodge is a terrific character building. So it dates back originally as an inn, and it dates back, I would think at least 200 years. And certainly Healy Hutchinson, who you may have heard of, who was that great famous sportsman, came there in 1860 to look at renting it. And he decided that the building was in such poor nick, he wasn't prepared to take Soval at that time. So you had the original coaching inn, which is a lovely old building, thick walls, and then Lord Leverhulme, prior to the First World War, he then extended the lodge, literally, and still doing it in 1914, with a lovely timber-lined extension where he put sort of 8 bedrooms down the end, which we call the cells, because they're very much the sort of small bedrooms. And then a lovely big sitting room that I mentioned, which had going up to lovely timber ceiling, going right up on an arch ceiling, great big great big room. So that was very much sort of a character place. About 13, gosh, we'd sleep 13, 14 easy in there, maybe as many bedrooms. Not very many bathrooms, so it wasn't quite so good for the modern day living. But then that's how it was.
Yeah, that's how
and
it
then
was.
When I came, old McKeever was, John McKeever was still living next door in the cottage, and had a great character, John McKeever. And if you knew John McKeever, he was the old keeper up until, gosh, I suppose in the 30s, maybe the 40s.
Was that Finlay's father?
Yeah, Finlay's father. He was a real character. I remember one day going to see him, and because if you could catch him with a bit of whiskey, then he was always delighted. He was your friend. And I remember giving him a tumbler, and I started pouring, and I said, "Say when." And I was looking him in the eye all the time. And I looked down, carried on looking him in the eye, carried on pouring. I got right to the top, and he said, "When?" And that was typical John McKeever. Great character.
So how would you characterize the relationship between yourselves and people like John McKeever and the people who lived here?
Well, it's always sort of hard when you're not living here 24/7, because you're always aware that collectively that you're the big bad landlord. Whereas you hope individually that people regard you on a one-to-one basis, not quite as bad as they thought. So, I think what we always tried to do is to share Soval with the community. And every opportunity I've always looked at over the years has been on the basis that 50% is going to go to the local community, 50% to me. I'm passing through in time, and you want to preserve the asset for everybody and do the best you can. So it's very much sort of, I think you've got to have a different mindset, but when you're looking after a crofting estate, to be looking at the wider angle.
That's very interesting. I think what we'll do now, if you don't mind, is we'll go and have a look at a map of Soval Estate, so we can actually know what area we're talking about.
Absolutely, sounds a very good idea. We've got a very good map in the hall, so I'll take you.
Good. So here we are at the map. Where are you here in the map?
So our lodge now is down here, right on the edge of Loch Erisort, about 2/3 of the way down Erisort. We look down towards Ballallen with a lovely view to the west. We're not far away from the entrance to the Laxey River, which comes around the side of Valtos Farm, and Laxey River goes up round into Loch Valtos, which has always been a fantastic salmon loch. And then the river goes on up right the way on up here into Trealavel. Trealavel, the most beautiful loch with about 15 islands. And when you come up to the right-hand end, so to the northern end, of Trealavel, you're up to a little river called Agnolin. And then all these lochs down here at Acmore all drain down into the Laxey system. And they're all fantastic sort of spawning grounds. And these burns right up here, on next to the road, then you'll see spawning fish there in the winter, in December time. So it's a lovely catchment area. And then the other end of Trealavel goes up into, right up into Fadagoa here, which is another great big loch here. So you've got a huge amount of water draining down into the Laxey system. The whole of Soval is the purple line here, which we're very lucky to have. It's a lovely piece of ground, relatively low lying. Our highest hill is Royneville at about 930 feet it is, but the rest is relatively low lying. So very nice walked up grouse shooting, which I was saying earlier we brought back in the 80s, and you've got to really look after it very carefully and sort out all your vermin, and really just look after all the wildlife, because that's what you're doing in terms of your long-term stock. And then lastly, a bit of stalking up on these hills up towards Hesterval, which is a nice bit of ground. And then about 20 years ago, I rented the whole of Park. I've got a long-term lease on that, and very nice walked-up grouse shooting on there. So you can shoot different bits. If a bit is poor, you can rest it. If you need to do extra trapping, extra burning on a piece of moor, you can do that. And interestingly, one or two of the locals were saying this year, we're seeing a lot more wildlife in certain areas where we've been doing a lot of concentration of trapping and killing off those terrible hoodies and things, which do so much damage. So I had a long-term lease on that and that. And then and I leased that from the community, which is I always rather enjoy that I'm the wee tenant going to see the big bad landlord there. And then I leased the woodland here, down in the Allium Woods, again from the community. And I mentioned to you that we've recently taken some stalking down in Harris from the North Harris Trust. So we've got all this lovely ground here from Langadale right down to the whaling station at the sea. So we've got a lot of variety that we can give to guests.
Well, indeed, I hadn't realised how big the whole place was. How big is Soval Estate itself?
Soval itself is 35,000 acres, which is all crofted, and so we've got about 400 crofts on the whole of Soval. So, and there are 10 townships. So it's one's very lucky to have such a large area and such a lovely estate.
Well, it is indeed, and it's really nice to see it like this laid out on a map, because it's difficult to visualize it.
It's so vast to get the idea. Yeah.
Because I hadn't realised you had so many of these lochs on it, and when you look there, there's more water than there is land.
A phenomenal amount of water. I mean, and extraordinary the way they all link up together. Yeah. So it is it's a lovely. One's been terribly lucky in life to own it.
Well, and you mentioned the word poor tenant. And
when I go to
you poor tenant down here, but you're the bad old landlord up here.
Absolutely.
So how do you marry these two?
I think you've just got to be, I hope, what one's attitude is very much long term. You're looking after the community in terms of your ownership. So, what I do on this land here, I'd always consult with the grazing clerks to see what they would like. If they're in favour, then I'm going to go ahead. So recently we've looked at a wind farm down here at Hesterval, one up at Grimshatter and Ranish. But the first thing I did was I went and had a meeting with the grazing clerks. So what do you think about the idea? Do you want to do it? They were very much in favour. So I said, all right, well, let's go ahead to the next stage. So, and that's the way I always tried to work in life, that very much sort of, if people want to do something and then we go forward together.
Because in as much as you are several generations down the line here, They are also many generations down the line, and they know the land.
And they know it even better than I do. I mean, I may have walked every inch of this, but they've lived here all their lives. And I get here, I suppose, I do about 10 weeks a year now. So I do as many weeks as I possibly can. But I still have a business to run in Manchester. So, but don't think too hard on me, because that's a brewery. So I got lucky enough to have Soval and to run a brewery in Manchester.
You tried to put me off my stride. But you run a business. How much do you see this as a business, or how do you see it? It has to be a business.
It's a very interesting question. You have to. I mean, I always thought, I was lucky or unlucky enough to be closely involved in running a prep school. And I always think running estates are very similar to running prep schools. And that is, if you run them really badly, you lose an absolute shed load of money. If you run them well, you don't lose quite so much money. and it's a bit the same. So you've got to run it as a business, because otherwise you can't keep it. I mean, in the summer we're employing 10 people. We've got 5 people full-time all year round. So you've got a big wage bill, and you need that for this sort of acreage to be able to really manage the land properly and to be able to provide the wild sport, because that sport's only there if you look after it.
So you're a boss as well.
Yes.
How does that work?
In terms of
you're a boss in Manchester. You're a boss also here.
Yes.
Are they the same?
No, I mean, it is actually very different, because here you're running this principally on your own. And so it's a very good question. Whereas in Manchester, I've got a fantastic, I'm running a big business there. It's a big team. It's actually almost easier. Here, it's down to you. And a lot of it is personal relationships and making sure you see people in the community. Every time I come up, I'll be seeing people, several days a week to talk about different issues.
But you're a landlord of an endangered species, shall I put it that way?
Absolutely.
And things have changed considerably since you took this place over.
Yeah.
Has that changed the way you do things in any way, or do you feel that things are okay the way they are?
I think the way I always run Soval is always to run it. Yes, I run it commercially, and we're let from beginning. We're let solid for parties in here, and we have been this season and last season, season before, and I've got all of next season let, apart from about 4 weeks now. So you've really got to be, on your game. So we're let solid from beginning of May to the end of October. That's every single week. You've got parties of between 8 and 14 people coming in every week, looked after here with full board and lodging. They've got 3 keepers to look after them. So they're a pampered species when they come here, and very well looked after.
But that's what they pay for.
And that's what they pay for, and that's what's good for. But that's also good for the community, because we're buying everything in town. My wife's very good at buying everything local, making sure we can use the island for put the money back in the island.
So there's a phrase we call intergenerational transmission. Is it going to stop with you, do you think?
Because I'm lucky enough to have 4 children. As I was saying earlier, they've been brought up here, with me on the island, and they think very much long term. They've been coming up here for a number of years. Everything I do now on Soval, I do with them. So I copy them into everything, so they can see what everything is going on. So that I hope is going to be a smooth transfer over the years. I mean, you asked me in terms of, do I do anything different the way local attitudes have changed to estates? I don't think I do. We put a tremendous amount of investment here over the years. We'll come on and obviously talk about the new lodge, but I've built, we took over the old farm here, and 12 years ago we decided that the letting in the old lodge was getting harder and harder, and we really took a big punt in transforming this building into a really nice lodge, and you've seen how attractive it is. So we put a lot of investment into that, and I put a lot of investment into the keepering side. So I think you've got to be, as a private landlord, you've got to be prepared to put a lot of money in to invest, within the estate.
I don't know why I thought about it, but again, in a sense, you have to do that. You would have to do that anyway, because with the present, the changing climate, you could find yourself, surrounded by non-private landlords.
Of course, I could, and actually, I am. I'm part owned by the community, so it is not, and if, to my mind, if a private estate is being run well, and people are investing in it and using local labour, and I always try where I possibly can to employ local people. And actually on an estate, if you're employing 10 people in the summer, that's quite a lot of jobs. And you're also, because you're full board and lodging, and we're let in the winter as well, you're using a terrific amount of trade from Stornoway.
And if we look at it in a long term, I mean, as you said yourself, you're passing through.
Yeah.
We're all passing through.
Absolutely.
But we get so involved in the immediate that we don't really think in these terms. And I suppose when you're actually running, you can't really think. But that is the situation, isn't it?
Yeah, it is absolutely. You're passing through, and that's how you're running it. But you're trying to. I mean, my attitude in life has always been to try and hand over the baton better at the end than you had it at the beginning, and that's really how my wife and I really always run Sobel over the years. And I think you've just got to acknowledge you're very fortunate to be in that position to be able to do that.
No, but you've got lovely salmon here. People pay a lot to come and catch the salmon. You do hunt deer. Well, once upon a time you had to, but now the deer come to you. The way things are.
Yes.
And some of these villages, how shall I put it, at one time were very, very well known for their ability to get salmon and deer where they shouldn't.
Of course. But then if you and I lived there, we'd do the same, wouldn't we?
But you're on the other side of the fence when it comes to that.
You are. But I mean, life is a balance, isn't it? You've got to strike a balance. And the guy or the woman who's being greedy, then you've got to do something about it. But actually, there's a balance in life, isn't there? And certainly 40 years ago, it used to be quite an issue around here, and that went with the territory, didn't it?
And you were once again. I remember Finlay McKeer telling me, one time about him lying in the seaweed, waiting, because he knew everybody even better, and then other people telling me, about how it changed. Actually, they went after salmon. They enjoyed the chase, as it were.
That's exactly what it is.
But they only took one for themselves.
Yeah, which is fine. That's I think in terms of, as I say, it just comes back to that balance between people. And if you and I found a deer in our croft, we're going to knock it off.
So what about now the people? You've had many people working for you over the years. Maybe we could reminisce about one or two. Maybe shall we go next door?
Absolutely.
Now that we know where we are and what we are. But we are the building we're in here just now. This is
So we're in the new lodge.
Yes.
So this is where we came a dozen years ago, having really transformed this as a building. So we've now got 7 bedrooms here, some double bedrooms. We're en suite here. You've got a lovely kitchen, as you've seen, a huge big sitting room, nice dining room. So it's a very lovely house looking right onto Loch Kershaw, as I said. And actually, I found when guests came here, they did less sport because they spent more time looking out of the window compared to being in the old lodge. So it was quite significant. You could sort of see the difference.
This has been my first time ever in here. I might as well take advantage and go into your lovely sitting room.
Right, let's go there.
Well, we're making our way to the lounge or the sitting room, but before we do that, we stop in another nice little room here with 1 or 2 significant documents, including this one here.
Now, this is a great fun document because it's the sale details from Soval when Lord Leverhulme sold the island in 1924. So it's a record of the old lodge, of the sport that was available. You can see the salmon catches, sea trout, brown trout, expecting to shoot a couple of hundred brace a year of grouse. And those are the sale details for, say, when it was put up for auction in 24, when it previously been offered to the community, but the community were not wanting to go ahead with it. So it's a fun document. One or two other old pictures in here. They are a bit faded. This is quite a significant picture, because this is the record salmon, they think, caught in the Western Isles, 33-pound codfish, caught in September, I think 1933 from memory. It was caught by Rupert D'Oyly Carte. So as in the famous D'Oyly Carte family, they rented Soval for many years. Yeah, it was caught in September 36, and its weight was 33 pounds.
So who's that holding it?
So actually the person holding it is very significant. It was actually the Gilly MacLeod, who was who was the uncle of Ian MacLeod, who was our gilly here for about 30 years. Okay. So he's holding it. Now that's an ordinary size salmon, and you've got this really great cock salmon next door to it.
Not just your family, but generations of other families.
Absolutely. Yeah, linking together. Yeah. So it's
isn't that interesting? Yeah. And these are one or two pictures of the old.
Yeah, we've got the old lodge over here. So this is what I was telling you about. We were here, obviously, right until about 12 years ago. See a lovely old building. That's the old inn that I was talking about. That was turned into a lodge. And then Lord Leverhulme put on this corrugated iron extension, timber-lined interior, which I was talking about, in 1914. And lovely sort of character building. In those days,
I'm looking at the car.
The car's significant because I believe that is the first car that ever came to the island.
Is that right?
I believe so. And of course, you'll note the significant thing is it's parked on the wrong side of the road. Oh. The idea of being parked on the wrong side of that corner today would be fairly lethal. Yes. Because in those days, no problem at all. And I think it was an early Bentley. And of course, in those days, even when my uncle came and brought a car over, they'd have to be craned on to the...
Oh, yes.
Lifted on. Oh, yes. No driving on, drive off, just craned on.
That's even into my generation, the old Loch Seaforth, that's how you did it. Yeah. Roll on, roll off only started in the 1970s.
Yeah. It's significant.
So anyway, there's something you mentioned also. You have a lot of guests here, and we have somebody with us who knows probably more about them than even you do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Come on. So my wife, Mary, coming up. Yeah. So you and I have run this, since...
1979.
Well, so you're going back 79, are you?
Yes. And I didn't dictation.
And I didn't propose to you till 85, and we got married then. Yeah, 84 I proposed. We got married in 85. Yeah.
So that's actually 40 years.
Yes.
40 years. Yes. So we got 40. We're married 40 years next year. Yeah. If we make it.
Well,
or God willing, as they say on the island.
So you're the lady of the estate, the lady of the lodge. First of all, what did that feel like at the beginning?
Well, I wasn't the lady of the lodge at the beginning. Richard's mother was still with us.
Okay. So you were the daughter-in-law.
To be.
To be.
I hope. Richard hadn't quite got there. And we, Heather and Peter ran the lodge. I helped out. They would ask me in those days to bring up grapefruits from London, where I was living and working, and because you couldn't get them on the island. Okay. And they had enough bringing up all their fishing gear and bits and pieces. Yeah. So, because there are lots of things you couldn't get on the island when I first came up in the late 70s.
Such as?
Other than grapefruit, on the top of my head, I can't think of anything else.
But I mean, cheese, that sort of thing.
Cheese,
yes, a lot of fruits and things.
Yes, there was no good food shop.
Yeah. All of,
around in those days.
but
So
there
it was
were-
all
yeah.
supermarket cheese.
but there was plenty of good food in houses, not
plenty
in
of
the
good food.
shops.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well,
And we had plenty of good food here that was on,
yes, yes. And
but-
I have, when a year or two later, I started doing more and more. I would be dispatched to go to Carpet World to buy carpet for the dining room
Okay.
and, do other things. And I ended up doing the shopping.
Well, you kept Carpet World alive.
Yes.
So you found out that you actually weren't telling others what to do. You had a lot to do yourself.
Yes, yes. Well, I enjoyed doing it. I got to fish a bit as well and go out when they were shooting. But we, over the years, best part of 40 years, we've brought up very good relationships with a lot of the suppliers in town.
I just hesitate when you said relationships. You went out shooting. Did you have your shotgun with you when you proposed?
It wasn't a shotgun wedding. That's what
You might edit this bit.
No, we might as well have some fun as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because your own relationship is part of the lodge for the last 40 years.
He did propose to me in the lodge.
Oh, did he?
On the sofa next door. I'll show you the sofa.
On bended knee as
We
well.
had to repair the sofa and yeah.
Rubbish.
No, not after I proposed, but because it was just such an old sofa, we had to keep it.
Yeah.
Well, so you knew what you're buying into.
Oh yes.
Yeah. That's good. And as we reflect on the years you have been here, when you look back, what thoughts come to you in terms of the way things have changed and that?
Oh, the speed of the way things are changing and all the cars. And it's a much cleaner island because 40 years ago, there would be any rusty cars just left anywhere. And none of on a Saturday, driving back from town, you would see the odd half bottle of whiskey thrown out along the way. That doesn't happen anymore.
No, it's much cheaper nowadays as well.
And you can recycle the bottle.
And yet the old rusty car had their merit. I knew a mechanic, and if you asked him, is there a part for such an old car? He said, yes, there's one 3 miles out on the moor out there.
Excellent. That's recycling.
But apart from that, in terms of the estate and the lodge and the people who come, has that changed?
We've got more mixed parties now because the old lodge was once described as being rather Spartan, and not a lot of women came. But we would have family parties, and our children loved growing up here. And when we would go home, they would always say, "Oh, we didn't go to this beach, or we didn't see so and so," and they just loved it. And I was committed to them loving the island as much as going fishing, and that all evolved as they got older.
What about relationships with? Did you get a chance to people? I was going to say local people. I'm not sure how you describe yourself. Were you able to get to know a lot of local people? Yeah.
Yes, we're very good friends with the Smith family in town, although they're not local to here, but they're in town from the shoe shop.
Oh yes, I know them very well.
I see Nan all the time when I'm up here.
And your relationship with Kathy, I mean, talk a bit about Kathy.
Kathy McKeever. She had retired by the time we had our first child, and I would go down to the boathouse, have lunch with them, and then always go and visit Kathy on my way back.
And who was Kathy? I mean,
Kathy was our housekeeper.
Okay.
And she was here in the doily cart era.
Yes, she was. So going right back to the 30s.
Yes. Yeah. And she lived in and would go home on a Sunday. Someone would come and pick her up or would take her. Yes, so
she was a great character.
Yes.
She was quite firm.
Yes.
Very good cook, but very gentle underside. Yeah. I remember when I was very young catching a fish on the river, and unusually I just crossed over a little burn on the middle pool, and you don't normally catch fish there, and this fish ran at me, and I stepped back because that's the way, and obviously the way you can keep it tight, and I ended up straight down in the burn up to about there. See. But I was very proud of myself as a young kid. I still managed to land the fish, and it was quite a small salmon. And I took it back, and of course I got Kathy said, "What are you doing so wet like that?" Oh, what's going on? So I got a real sort of for that. I said, "Oh, but I did catch salmon." "Oh, that's not too bad." And then I showed her the salmon. She said, "You got wet for that?" And that was typical Kathy.
So she bossed you.
Yes, she would. I mean, she was
Yes.
in a lovely sort of way.
Yes.
But she was.
She'd
She
be
was.
firm.
She'd be
And she'd
firm,
be
but
firm with the girls who
But she was a
came
very,
in to help.
very lovely person who must have worked for us over what 30, 40 years, I think,
Yes.
for the estate.
Yes. Well,
She was there in
you
my
know.
uncle's time when he bought in 1950. She was there.
And you know, then you talk about the relationship. You're the owner, she's the worker, but yes, she's bossing you.
Absolutely. Well, I
Yes.
was a kid, wasn't I?
But
You know, I was probably 15 telling you that story. You know.
she did come down to stay with your for
Yeah,
winter
she used to
with
come
your
down. Used to come
parents.
down and
Okay.
yeah.
And she'd go to the doily carts in.
Yes, she would.
In
Yeah.
Wiltshire?
They were down in Dorset. Yeah, Dorset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioning the doily carts because not all that long ago I was remembering, and I found out that there was a football competition in the old days here, and they were playing for the doily cart cup, and it had been donated by Lady Doily Cart.
Yes, I've heard that. I've heard of that cup. So they were very prominent on the island.
Okay, so well, we were on our way to the sitting room, so
Right.
we'll do that now. Will we?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
So we've managed back into the lounge here. Lovely view of Loch Erisert in front of us here, and quite an important book in front of us.
Yeah, I mean, this is our game book, and we've had game records going right back. We've got some very early books here, going back to the early 20th century. And guests will write in what they've done in the day, and they'll put in the odd remark. They'll put in what they might have caught, shot, or what they've actually done. And each party will have a record of what has happened. And particularly important for things like shooting, whereby we're recording. If you look right back in these game records, you will record every single grouse we see. So you can actually tell on a particular beat how good or bad it is. Have you got your grouse totally wild? You've got to really look after those and manage them. So if you've got not enough grouse, you'll be leaving that beat. If there are a lot of single old cock birds, they're really bad vermin, and those old cock grouse, they pinch the best ground and they don't breed. So you end up with very few young. So you've really got to be after those old cock birds. So very important that we have that precise record, and we can really manage what we're doing.
See, part of the trouble is you said you're running it as a business, but you actually like going out yourself, don't you?
I do. I love going out myself, and I hope to go out later on today, depending on how long you talk to me for. But yeah, I mean, I love going out, and I love the island, and I've been lucky enough to spend all my life walking different parts of it. And we have some amazing woodcock shooting in the winter, which we come up and enjoy, and probably the most challenging sport one might do.
It's easy talking about the past because it's on record.
Yeah.
What about the future now? Because there are a lot of things or proposals or ideas about developments for the future. Of the rest of the land, but of this estate as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've just got to manage the estate that is good for the community, good for you. It can't be just you, or it can't be just them. It's got to be a partnership, and you've got to try and manage it in a way that everybody wants. And I've mentioned previously about talking to the grazing clerks, making sure that people want you to do that. Peat restoration is a very good example. There's been an awful lot in the press recently that's been a bit negative to peat restoration. I've been talking to 1 or 2 local communities as to whether they actually want it. Do they want to share it on an equal basis? It's really just seeing what people want. I mentioned the wind farm. People are in favour of that, so yes, let's do it. I'm looking at some social housing at the moment. Can we get some of that on Soval? Because we need more housing to keep more people on the island, and we've got spare land. We just need to get the government to get some money to be able to develop it. So I mean, I hope in future we can develop on those lines.
That's very interesting. But for yourself, though, you mentioned the characters. a short reminiscence about some. We've mentioned the housekeeper. Who else has been keeping you in control here?
Well, over the years, I mentioned Ian McLeod. So he was our keeper for about 30 years. Very, very nice man. His daughter Amaya was a housekeeper for many years. They both retired quite a few years ago. So that was a sort of happy time where we really built up, Ian and I built up the estate together, built up the letting, the tourism, and just got more and more people coming to the island. And then really my wife was fantastic in making sure that we kept ahead of the game, really developed a very, very comfortable place for everybody to come to, and just invested in what we needed. And then latterly we had a nice man called Michael Mackenzie, who was keeper for about 10 years. He'd been working on Skye. Very sadly, he died far too young of a brain tumour. And then latterly we've had Malcolm McPhail the last 5 years, and he's got two very nice underkeepers who work with him, called Jay and Paddy. So, but very nice, happy team. And I've got a trainee keeper as well. And then in the house here, we're looked after by Mari McLeod, or Mari G, so Mari Grava, she's known, lives in Grava, and she's our cook and housekeeper. And then she employs local people in here as well. So it's just important to have that nice body of people.
Well, can I first of all thank you very much indeed for agreeing to speak to us here today, and to welcome some of the questions I had for you, which you might not have been expecting.
No.
Thank you very much indeed for speaking to us here. An interesting view indeed on life in Soval, part of the Kinloch area. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, I know I've enjoyed talking to you, and thank you very much for coming along and quizzing me. And I hope it doesn't sound, it's been in the main not too bad in what I've said. So I've say it's been a very nice experience.
Thank you very much.